Welcome everybody to a new analysis of Tradomics. This is the episode 57 and we're going to have a look at the most prominent 10 US tech stocks. We're going to start with Microsoft Corporation, and in the last analysis that we issued, we were saying that we were expecting downtrend for Microsoft, given that this cycle turned into a negative one, and we know that the duration of a cycle, a weekly cycle, can last between 6 to 11 days. The downtrend occurred for 6 days, and after 6 days, we have had a bounce back to the upside. So analysis correct. We have had the minimum duration of weekly cycle, but here the algos HFT abide our durations. So here from this low, we can now put a T plus 1, because if we gauge the total duration um, from the low from here, we have 23 bars. So this one is a positive downward cycle, and the duration is a T plus 1. So now from this low, we have had another push to the upside, and we went over the stop at $426.79. But from this stop occurred on the 17th of September, we have had a pretty strong retracement. Now, what we can say about this thing is that if we gauge the total duration from the low of the 2nd of August until Friday's candle, we have 43 bars. So here we are expecting to close at T plus 2, and actually this area of support, which is um, in the area of the moving average 200 period, will be key and fundamental to push the price back to the upside, or to have a bounce back to the upside, because now the time is really stretched to proceed with the downtrend, or to proceed with this retracement. Therefore, given that the total duration, or the maximum duration of T plus 2 is 44 bars, here from Monday onwards, we can expect a bit of a push to the upside, or a bit of a rise of the prices. How long can the prices go up? Then this is something that we have to monitor over time. But considering that we are basically at the end of a T plus 2, then what we can expect is to have a push to the upside from Monday onwards. Regarding the levels that we can achieve, here we can drag a Fibonacci retracement. So for the next week, one of the key targets is $421.20 and $425.44. Now, this is the situation for the downward cycles. But regarding the upward cycles, there is something really interesting to flag up. So here from this top, we were saying that we were expecting a T plus 2. Therefore, here we had a nice, let's say, short-term downtrend of the price level. But then we turned this T plus 2 in a positive cycle. Now, is this a T plus 2? Because the thing is that after this harsh retracement, and considering that from this top we had 50 bars, here we have also the sufficient and necessary condition to have not just a T plus 2, but a T plus 3. And the T plus 3 can be a combination of first T plus 2 and then a T plus 1. So considering that we have already this retracement that broke up some key price levels here, for sure here we can update the chart by putting from this top a T plus 1 upward cycle. But it can be also something more. that because if we will not go back immediately to this stop and immediately is within 44 bars from this stop, then here we will have a T plus 3. If we gauge the total duration now from this stop to here, we have 17 bars. But considering that this is a T plus 2, a T plus 2 can have at most 44 days in order to close its development or the cycle itself. And the most interesting thing is that if we drag up to 44 bars or 43 bars, here we ended up with the earnings release. So here we have a triggering point for funds to eventually return in the area of $441.85 according to the date in which the earnings release will be issued. And given the date, this will be the penultimate date in which the cycle can conclude its development. So at the moment here, let's consider this is a T plus 2, but let's put also a question mark, because if the earnings release will not produce the effect in which we will have a bounce back to the top here, then from here we will have a T plus 3. Okay. And if we will continue to, after a bounce back to the upside, if we will continue to have a downtrend and we will go below this low at $400.80, from here we will have definitely a T plus 3. And if this condition will be true before the earnings release, then when the earnings release will be, let's say, issued, then in that case, we will have more probability to return in this area at $384, or even in this area at 386 and $384. So in the area of this support. Okay, so a little bit complicated, but at least you're aware of what can happen, even not just for the next week with the bounce back to the upside to commence a potential T plus 2, but also when the earnings release will be issued. Okay, so that's the situation on Microsoft. And now let's move to the next one. And before moving to the next one here, I will also leave, as usual, our arrow, because according to statistics, here we have maximum another day to go to the downside or proceed to the downside, and we have 43 days or 43 probabilities out of 44 to have a bounce back to the upside from Monday onwards. So this is what statistics is suggesting us, considering that for the next week we will not have Bayatong, but we have 43 out of 44 probabilities from Monday onwards to have a bounce back to the upside. And of course, we will have to monitor the bounce to the upside. I have already given you the targets, and also this one will be critical at 300. $435.30. So let's now move to, on Amazon. The situation is the following, and I have to forgive because I noted that in the last analysis that I issued, there was no audio for Amazon. So apologies, but here I can give you an updated view of the chart. So first of all, from this top, we have the confirmation this is a T plus 5 yearly upward cycle. And from this low here, we have a confirmation that this is not just a T plus 2, considering that we have had this, I would say, brilliant rally to the upside, and we went over to this candle. So here we have not just a T plus 2, but at least a T plus 3. Now, I was saying also that if this is a t plus 4 and this is turning into negative, we should have the beginning of a t plus 3, but then a return back to the absolute lows, because this is a t plus 4 that is now negative, okay? And this return to the lows can happen within the duration of a t plus 4, which is between 94 and 168 days. But it's also needs to be it's also it should be mentioned that if we gauge the total duration from this t plus 5 until here, we have 193 days, which is basically the minimum duration of a t plus 5. Now, given that we have had this really this nice rally to the upside, and this rally has generated a rise and a gain of the price of 28% in basically 1 month, almost 2 months. And considering also the fact that we have reached Fibonacci level retracement, which is more than 78%, here we can start also thinking at the fact that this cannot be, this is a t plus 3, but might be also a t plus 5. And this, rather than a t plus 4, is a t plus 3. Because given that we had all the condition to have a t plus 4, um, but from this low we have a t plus 3, and if we will return back to the absolute lows, here we will have a confirmation of a t plus 5. Therefore, we have to change the t plus 4 into a t plus 3. So now here, let's put a question mark. And also let's put a question mark also for this t plus 3, okay? So if we go over the stop, then we will have a t plus 5, positive t plus 5. Therefore, we will have confirmation of a rally that can last quite long. At the moment, we have had the first t plus 2, and now with this second upward cycle, we have 23 bars. So this is t plus 2, and if it's a positive one, same situation as for Microsoft. Here we should expect to return back to the tops, like Nasdaq index has done at 24 bars. But if we will not return back to the tops within a medium or a maximum duration. So if we will not return back to the tops before 22nd of October, then from this top we will have a t plus 3, and then will be the first t plus 2, but this will be just a t plus 1, okay? So this is something that needs to happen if this is a t plus 2. But bear in mind then that from this top we might have also t plus 3. Therefore, if we have a t plus 3, then we will have a further downtrend. At the moment, we can say that this is a t plus 1, but also here, let's put a question mark. Because if we will start going, especially down this low at $171.16, then here we will have a t plus 3, okay? So that's the situation we have on Amazon. And as for Microsoft, if we gauge the total duration, here we have 42 bars. So potentially here we have also the beginning of a T plus 2 at the moment. Let's put this as a T, but it might be also something more. So next week for Amazon will be key to understand if from here we will have a T plus 2, and if we will return over this top, then we will have the condition to also close the T plus 2 and have also the new T plus 2 in development, okay? So let's monitor what the price will behave next week. So let's move now to the next one. On Apple, there is not really much to say because here we were expecting this move. This move developed T+2, a closing of the T+2. So analysis perfectly correct. And here you can see the beauty of this analysis. So here we know that a T+5 upward cycle is positive. Here we have a T+4, but we know also even after this, let's say, downtrend, that we would have returned back to the tops because here the time was not completely wear out. So we had 145 bars. So this is really the power of the cycle analysis and our methodology. Because from here, I would challenge everyone applying the technical analysis to say that we would have returned back to the tops within a certain time that I also given in the latest analysis. So this is just to flag up what is the tremendous advantage by applying this methodology. So here we were also expecting this move, and here we were also expecting the fact that we would have returned back to the stop. So here the situation on Apple is really clear to read. What I can say on top of it is that here we had a T+1 upward cycle. So therefore, here we have time to return on this top at $233, and then also to this one at 230. This is $32, and this is 233. Okay, so we will return back to the tops. We will return back to the tops, and I can also given you so we are at 26 bars, so we can return back to the tops if we gauge a median duration by 15th of October, or at most we will return back to the tops within 30th of October 2024. After the return back to the tops and also to this one, then we will expect eventually a T+3. So we will have also in the meantime a retracement eventually, but the situation is not going to change too much on Apple. So here we expect more rally to the upside. Let's move to the next one. On Meta, we have the same situation as for Apple. So here we have the T+4 upward cycle that is has been positive. Therefore, we can expect the extension of the cycle to the upside until its minimum, medium, or maximum duration, which is between 94 and 168 days. We were expecting exactly this move, and I think as also for Apple, we had the closing of the T+2. Perfect. So here we can update the chart with the T+2. And now we are on the second T+2 of this T+3. And what we can expect is further rally. Now here, let's also gauge the total time. Okay, so here we have 30 days, and regarding this, we have 63 days, and regarding this one, T+4, we have 126 days. So here we have on Meta, compared to Apple, less time to proceed to the upside, because here the time is a little bit it's stretcher, because here the T+2 has reached already 30 days, so it's already a median duration. So here we have time to proceed to the upside up to 44 bars, but the more we go or we get closer to the maximum duration, the higher the probability it is to have the beginning of another cycle. So this cycle can, or in other words, this rally can last until, at most, best case scenario, 23rd of October 2024. The earnings release will be issued after that date. And we know also that the T+3 can last how long? 89 days. So here, eventually, the T+3 can be stretched even over or beyond the date of the earnings release. But now you have to be careful that the T+2 has reached a median duration. So they might also start a retracement also from next week. So next week here on Apple, there is the possibility to start the retracement. Okay, so be careful. That time for the T+2 has reached a median duration, and maximum duration is, as I said, until the penultimate week of the month of October. For the T+4, we have still time to proceed to the rally, but be careful because also the earning release might be a triggering point eventually to start an upward cycle that might be more than a T+2, might be more than a T+3. And the wider the cycle, the let's say the harsher the retracement can be, especially from the beginning. Okay. Regarding the duration of this T+5, we are at 237 bars. So we are starting reaching also median duration for the T+5 downward cycle. Okay, so now be a little bit careful with Apple. I have also the intraday chart that I'm not going to show in this video, but potentially I can calculate in intraday how long this rally can also last for the next week. But this is something that at the moment I'm not going to show. Probably I will show it in the premium version. Okay, so now let's move to the next one. On Google, according to the last analysis, each should, I was saying that this T+2 turned into a negative one, and therefore we could have had a minimum and maximum duration of a T+2 to proceed to the downside. And the duration is between 24 and 44 days. And what happened is that we have had this downtrend of this T+2, guess what? Until its minimum duration, 24 bars. So here the HFT have not been so nasty because they could have had more time to proceed to the downside. But here we had exactly the minimum duration of a T+2 to extend the downside the rally. So analysis perfectly correct because we were expecting this move. Now from this low, we can now put a new cycle that is at the moment a T plus something. Why I put this T plus something in white? Because here we might potentially have also the sufficient and necessary condition to close a yearly downward cycle, and therefore here we can expect a new T plus 5. At the moment, we have a duration of 19 bars over this low. So at the moment here, we have a T+3. But let's see whether in the future we will have more push to the upside, and so to consider this not just a T+3, but eventually a T+5. From the upward cycles perspective, this is a T+2 that has reached a duration of 29 bars with this candle. So now here potentially we have the close of a the T+2 and also the T+3. So we have given that this T plus 2 has turned into a positive one because this stop is at $170.44 and this stop was at $170.19. So this is higher compared to this. What we can expect here is we can proceed to the rally up to 44 bars until the 22nd of October. So given that now we have reached 32 days, so we have a median duration, we can have 12 possibilities out of 44 to proceed to the upside. And we have, in contrast, we have 32 possibilities to go to the downside. So this is the statistic. So we have more possibilities to start to go to the downside rather than to the upside, but still here we have some possibilities to proceed. Okay, and when this will be over, so if we proceed to the upside, then we will have the beginning of a T plus 3. Okay, so here is what we can expect. But it's not given by the fact that we will return next week over this $170.44, because here we have already the sufficient and necessary condition to begin eventually a T plus 3. So be really careful. But if here we don't have a T plus 3 but a T plus 5, then of course this cycle, this T plus 2 cycle, can extend its duration more to the upside. It really depends from here what is gonna what was born on the 9 of September 2024. Okay, so be aware of this situation. And eventually, if we will proceed next week, the rally to the upside, the first target will be $175.68, and then we will have this gap down occurred on the 24th of July 2024. So now let's move to the next one. On Tesla, in the last analysis, I was flagging out the possibility to have the T plus 2 that was developed either on the 20th of August 2024 or on the 5th of September 2024. And this was key to understand the prosecution of the rally, given that now either from this top or from this top, we have a new cycle that is positive. In the meantime, I was saying also that I was expecting the closing of the first T plus 2, and the closing of the T plus 2 is potentially not towards the moving average 200 period, but the reality was a little bit different. But here, so here we have the duration of 41 bars. So next week, by the end of the next week, we will have more info regarding whether from this low we will have the beginning of a T plus 2. At the moment, I put a T in yellow. So let's see next week what is going to happen. And also, this is a situation that is similar for other stocks like Amazon and also Microsoft. But also potentially from this top, we might have the beginning of a T plus 3, because we have 57 bars. So now you understand that from this top, we potentially have the sufficient and necessary condition to close a T plus 2 and have a force that is pushing back down the price. But also from this low, we might have next week another force that is pushing the price back to the upside. So here the situation is not as clear as, for example, Apple. But if next week we will return back to the stop, then we will have the beginning of a T plus 2. And if we return back to the stop and we go also over the stop, then for Tesla, we're going to have a brilliant scenario for the last quarter of 2024 and definitely brilliant for 2025. But as far as we don't go over this top at $271, then the situation will have to be monitored over time. Okay, so the key message here is that from this top, we might have potentially the beginning of something that might be more than a weekly cycle, might be potentially also something else. And next week, the two price level that have to be taken into that have to be monitored are the following. So the first level on top is $264.86, and the second one is at 237.81. If we go lower to 237.81, then we will have the entire wick that will develop to the downside. Otherwise, if we go over the stop, then we will have potentially a brilliant scenario, because the break of this high will trigger the price really close to this area, and eventually the breaking of this other high will turn the T+5 into +1. In the meantime, the earnings release will be issued on the 23rd of October 2024. So now it's important for the next week to monitor these two price levels, because here potentially we have the beginning of a T+2, but also here we could potentially have the beginning of a T+3. Okay, so we have to monitor which one of the forces will prevail over the other, either the down force or the up force. So now let's move to. So on Nvidia, according to the last analysis, we were forecasting this downward cycle, because we had a negative weekly cycle, and this cycle lasted 6 days. Well, this was the weekly cycle, so lasted 10 days. So here we had the prosecution to the downside, and from this low, we had 23 bars. So basically similar situation as for Microsoft and Amazon. So from this low, we have the T+1 downward cycle, and now from this T+1, we had potentially the closing of another 18 bars, another T+1, but here we have the closing of eventually the T+2. Okay, after 41 bars. So now we have to monitor whether this will be the beginning of a T+2 or not. And another checkpoint will be to go over the stop for the next week, because here for sure we have a weekly upward cycle that now has reached a duration of 6 bars. So if we go over the stop, then we will have for next week we will have the remaining time eventually to proceed to the upside. Otherwise, here potentially we might have also the condition to have, as for the other charts, eventually the beginning of a T+3, because now we have reached a duration of 67 days. And as for the other charts, let's see. Yes, so here we have a T+2 and eventually a T+1 to begin a T+3. So also next week, in this case, will be important to understand the future direction of the price. And in order to understand it well, then here we will have to carefully monitor this top. So this one is the first key level to monitor for next week, and the second one will be at 115.14. So here I put this one at, we said, 115.14. Okay, so this will be the critical level to assess next week in order to better understand whether a weekly cycle will turn into a negative one or whether a weekly upward cycle will turn into a positive one and eventually reach the first target of 131.25 to close the second T+2 and then have the sufficient and necessary condition eventually to begin a T+3. Okay, so that's the situation we have on Nvidia, and therefore we move to the next one. On Intel, we said that we were expecting further downtrend because this was T+2 or eventually a T+3 that turned into a negative cycle. And here we can gauge the total duration, and we had 24 bars, so analysis correct. Another T+2 that was negative. And this T+5 that is now negative has reached a total duration of 219 days. So now here we have the sufficient and necessary condition to close this T+5 because we had during the last weeks this cycle that was attached to a T+4 and T+5. So now here we have the potential ending of this T+5. And now we have to see here from this low whether we have a simple T+3. But let me clear a bit the chart first. So we need to understand whether from this low, so from this low, if we have eventually after this T+2 and after this T+3 that will return back to the lows because it belongs to this structure, or if from this low we will start something that will bring us more toward the upside. Is this something that we can know at the moment? No, it's too early. But I'm saying that from here we might have potentially something new because this T+2 seems now to be turned into a positive cycle. And as for the others companies, so either here we will have a T+2, so a T+2 and a T+1 and then a T+3, or we will have the return to the tops within a duration of 44 days, so within a duration that goes even beyond eventually the earnings release, 44 days until the 31st of October 2024 to close this T+2. Okay, so also in this case, the price level to monitor is this one. So the level is $24.66. So this will be our key level to understand whether we will have further uptrend or not, and if from here we will have a T+3 or something more. At the moment we can update the chart as this is a T+2, and we know that, and this is really important, we know that this is a negative T+5 that can end here but has definitely a lot of time more to proceed to the downside, because we have reached just a duration of 219 days, and 219 days is not even a median duration. So be careful, because this might be a bounce of a dead cat, and then in that case we will return back to the lows, even if, given that the price went over the stop at $22.12, we have already a weak sign of strength. Okay, so this price level, $24.66, I repeat, is the key price level to monitor next week or even the week after, to understand whether this T plus 2 will have a this shape like this to complete the T plus 3, or whether the T plus 3 will begin after the first monthly upward cycle and the second bi-weekly upward cycle. Okay, so that's the situation we have on Intel. So this is all for our analysis, and if you like the video and you think you have had useful insights, subscribe to our channel so you can be notified as soon as possible regarding our our regular analysis, and put if you want a like to support our daily job that is meant to give more transparency to traders and investors about the opportunities that are coming from the market, as well as the risks. So thanks for watching, and see you to the next episode.